I'm Patty Limerick. I'm at the Center of the American West at the University of Colorado.
And you are also the incoming president of this organization.
You want to talk affiliations, and affiliation, I think the root word is love, right? So I am deeply affiliated with OAH. I am the incoming president.
I think there's been a lot of interest in the topic you picked for next year's program. Where does that come from?
Well, our topic is taboos for next year's program. I have two most excellent program committee co-chairs, and I think actually the idea percolated up from them, not up, but across from them, and the notion is that we are just constrained in ways we do not need to be constrained, that there are topic areas where we think, oh, better not go there, or there are forms of professional conduct and expression that we think, no, that will not necessarily be well received by our comrades. So we just want to not have this is the good news for some, we're not having a rebellion or a revolution, or it's the sad news for others, I suppose, but we just want to look at some of the customs and habits of our minds and our conduct and our expressions and say, some of these constraints are appropriate, and there are some forms of communication about human beings that are insufferable, and we would not want to encourage that. But there are other ways in which we should be treading a broader trail here. We should be going in directions that we just thought, that's going to be very uncomfortable if we raise that question. And of course, I will now say that my own career is something of the career of a maverick and an odd bird. So, and some of the things I've done, I've thought, well, that's not going to work, and then it has worked really well, and actually built community and camaraderie among my fellow historians.
All right, well, give us an example from your own career, of a taboo subject where you decided you were going to go jump in.
Well, I hope I can do two. One, I want to do this one just because it gets more at the exhilaration for the profession, I think. I do at the Center of the American West, I do very applied things. And I take up topics that do not necessarily seem to have a clear historical dimension. And then I incorporate historians in that. So for instance, we had a session many years ago, 14 years ago, I guess, on sound and noise in the national parks. And that's really a policy issue, it's snowmobiles and so on. But we framed it with historians talking about the history of sound in different eras and places. And you could see a lot of the policy people bewildered and maybe stunned of thinking, what? I mean, I had a medieval historian talking about the role of vows of silence in medieval monasteries and the separation that monasteries made between secular sound and celestial sound. So they were not silent in monasteries, but they had segregated those two forms of sound. Well, when you read national park policy, you think, celestial and secular sound. So that's the kind of thing that's been very fun. The historian one of the historians who spoke remembers this. I mean, this is 14 years later, I think, as the happiest moment of his life. He did not go to a convention with 12 people, fellow specialists in the field in the room. He had 250 people who listened attentively when they saw that this comparison was going to illuminate things for them and show them alternatives and possibilities. So that's the kind of thing that's been very fun. In terms of myself, I am a member of the American Waterworks Association, the Society of American Historians, the retired Forest Service employees. Now, for instance, you may notice that I'm never have been a Forest Service employee, but I have bonded through this historical perspective thing, so that when I spoke to the water managers last year, they said, oh, you must join the Water Managers Association, American Waterworks Association. I thought, I don't know, am I not a member of enough groups? So, but no, apparently I'm not. So I go in, I am a comrade to people in many, many applied forms of work. And who knew that those people would be so responsive to historical perspective? But not only do they tolerate me for a visit, but they recruit me for membership. So, not presidency there, it has to be said.
Taboo subjects for next year's meeting. Give us an example of something that you're anticipating is going to be discussed.
Well, I think we will have some, and there are publications out there. The program committee co-chair, Andrea Geiger, did a very fine book on tensions within the Japanese American and immigrant community that came from Japan that were not, this is not in any way, I have to be very emphatic, to minimize the oppression and suspension of Japanese immigrant rights and Japanese American rights, but to say there's internal conflicts and issues as well there. So I think in some ways it's what has been happening in a number of fields. That there was a time, I was alive then, I saw it, where women's history had to be all about solidarity and celebration of progressive movement. Well, there seemed to be some women who forgot to read that script and who did not engage in demonstrations of the idea that women are intrinsically more harmonious and more kind and sympathetic. So just reckoning with the human diversity of all these groups, I think that's a core part of it. And it's already underway. I mean, we're not doing something never imagined before, but we're being a little bit more celebratory of it. I think in ways, I guess I'll go here because why would I have a conference on taboos if I didn't break one right now? We are very circumspect in talking about hierarchy in this profession and the intolerable dilemmas of adjunct people, which are in many ways the underpinning of the full professor's opportunities to engage in research and so on. As a Western American historian, I think about and am attentive to dual labor systems. That's a term we use in Western history for where you have an elite group of workers. I mean, it's all over labor history of different kinds of unions for skilled workers and unskilled workers. So as historians, we're pretty good about talking about other people's dual wage economies and not quite so enthusiastic about saying, might we, in a strange and uncomfortable way, be replicating some of the customs of railroad building hiring systems, which was not those, when we think of who should we admire and emulate, we do not think of the Union Pacific and the Central Pacific. Yay, that's great, but in really uncomfortable ways that I think I think everyone would benefit from a little bit more self-examination on that. We have a dual wage economy.
I cannot wait for next year's meeting.
Me either. Woohoo! And plans, I don't know what's going to happen exactly, but plans for maybe a session. This is not, please nobody get excited here. Maybe a session on what historians can learn from magicians.
Wow.
The magicians want to come, but they cannot make commitments as far ahead of as I would like to. So nobody should prepare to go to the circus just just yet, but that would be pretty cool because they know how to present some information, engage curiosity, hold attention, reveal some things, not reveal other things. So I mean, there's just something that a magician could really be helping us with, and the history of magic is intrinsically interesting as well. So the working magic, that's the theory.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.